Hey, everybody. We're going to get started in just a moment. Can you put your finger up if you can hear me okay? You can hear me. Okay, good. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Um, Let me pull up my PowerPoint, and I want to thank you very much for showing up. We probably are going to have a few more people join us here, so I'm going to be hesitating every once in a while to let people in. Okay, again, thanks very much for showing up. My name's Steve Kodad, and this has to do with the training for certification for Feng Shui Staging Professional. This is a certification that I started creating about 18 years ago, and I've just added to it and added to it. And so it's something that I really want to tell people about, and I want to show you that it's a lot more than what you're probably expecting. I was a realtor myself for about 19 years, and primarily in the North and South Carolina. And I'm like a lot of you, I picked up, quite a few different designations. And I've had the great pleasure of doing a lot of podcasts for people. In the last 2 months, I've actually done 11 or 12 podcasts. And so there's an awful lot of interest out there. And this last one that I just brought up, I was working for them. Out of Nebraska and actually speaking around the country on this particular topic. So if you get a chance, you might want to check out realestatespeakers.com. You can see my face on there. And so again, I was getting on airplanes left and right and flying all over the place. The last time I did that was in Atlantic City for what's called Triple Play. Now, uh, I do have a CE class that I give in Florida that is for 3 hours. And a neat thing that has happened this week is that I'm now going to be doing the CE on a boat uh, for a cruise out to the Bahamas next year for Florida real estate agents, sadly, just them. Here I am in Boca Raton, and I want you to understand there's an awful lot of interest in feng shui with respect to how it can help people. And this is in Kissimmee. So quite often I'm reaching 100, 200 people every time I speak at one of these things. So again, there's an awful lot of interest, not only with clients, but also with real estate agents. So I want to get the point across to you. This is just the first 10%. So I think an awful lot of people get the wrong impression about this. This certification course is about real estate success. That's really what it's all about. And it's not just about feng shui. So don't get hung up on it just being feng shui. So the other 90% covers how to use feng shui for real estate success. And some of the modules that you might be taking if you decide you want to sign up are on how to use feng shui in open houses to make them really, really stand out. So I also have one on how people react to different colors. The color module is very popular with my students. And then there's one on landscaping, how to actually set it up so that it excites people and grabs an awful lot of attention. And those are just some of the ones that you would find in this training. So there's much, much more. So who benefits from this material? Certainly real estate agents, home stagers, but people who also want to make it a career. office workers. I have people who take the material and change their office or change their cubicle, and certainly people who want to make their home a magnet for success. Google has an awful lot of statistics out there about feng shui that I like to bring up every once in a while. And you can see by this, there's an awful lot of people here that get on all the time and type in things about feng shui. So there's an awful lot of interest, and you'd find out that it is certainly an area where you'd be able to get some, pique some interest. Anyway, information covered here. We're going to explain what feng shui is, how it's developed, and how it's used and considered around the world. And to me, that is really one of the most important things about this class is that it shows you where the interest is. There's an awful lot of interest in this country, but it's, of course, in other countries too. You're going to find out about the tools of feng shui, how to use them to cure any environment. And we're going to start with something like this because to me, if you're in real estate and you're not thinking about international investors, you're probably going to be, you know, losing a few closings that you shouldn't. There's an awful lot of interest with particular countries, which I'm going to talk about. This surprises some folks, but really, this was another way that I was able to make a career out of this, is just aiding home buyers, making sure that I look at their house and evaluate them for them. And I mean, I've got something like that going right now with a couple of real estate agents in my area. And my area is the Bradenton, Sarasota, Florida area. You're going to, of course, learn some practical feng shui techniques to sell a home fast. And that is what most of you are probably on here about, but that's just one of many reasons. Excuse me. You're going to learn how to speak feng shui with somebody who doesn't have any idea what it is, or with a person that's very knowledgeable. And something that I think is really valuable is potential niches that really complement feng shui and back and forth. Like, for example, universal design. You can make a total career in real estate on universal design, and we talk about that in the class. So we're going to begin with what I consider a very lucrative real estate market, the international buyer. And it doesn't matter where you're coming from. All of these parts of the world have interest in feng shui. So clients come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, and it doesn't matter if you're from Yugoslavia, Middle East, or the Far East, there's an awful lot of interest. And again, I want to bring some of those things up to you. In this picture right here, this represents for you the amount of investment that international people are making nowadays in the United States. They find that investing in real estate in the United States is very stable and very lucrative for them. So if you notice right here, that big egg is the United States. And year after year, way ahead of any other country. And the next one is the United Kingdom. But again, it's really pales next to that one. And if you add up the next 20 countries, the next 20, you'll find out that there are still an awful lot less combined than what the real estate that is sold in the United States. So those foreign home buyers, you should not forget. And again, they have a lot of interest in feng shui. That's what I'm building up to. So foreign buyers typically purchase more expensive properties, and half the time they pay with cash. And again, I was a real estate agent for a long time. I know going to closing sometimes to me was actually somewhat stressful, especially if there were any questions about financing. But when they're paying cash, it's, you know, a lot easier. This particular picture shows you the blue bars are the international investors. They buy more expensive homes. So, of course, it's going to be a bigger commission for you. Now, the major reason that international buyers invest in the United States is, believe it or not, it's less expensive here. And I know that shocks you probably, but it's less expensive. And this graph will show you what goes on. And most of the reasons why they invest here is because, again, it's stable, but their money will go further. So, other than California, parts of California, and maybe New York City, they get a larger bang for their buck. So many of these buyers are really, really interested in feng shui. And I think you're missing the boat if you don't have a way of speaking to them about that and can actually give them the impression that you know something. So this particular picture shows you where a lot of the countries are that invest in the United States. China's number one. It has been since 2013, which might surprise you. And I'll show you where they invest the most in a moment. Canada was number one for a while, Mexico, India, and the United Kingdom. What makes that really important and why I'm showing this slide is that all of those countries have a lot of interest in this thing called feng shui. They might not call it feng shui, but they really have a lot of interest in it. So, do certain countries favor particular states? Well, they certainly do. And if you're not doing an awful lot of research to find out where this is coming from, again, I think you're leaving some bucks on the table. There is certainly states in the United States where certain countries actually go to. Here's some of them. China, as you can probably imagine, because of proximity, they buy an awful lot of real estate in California. But they also have a very large Asian population in certain cities, like, for example, New York City. They feel more comfortable in that setting. And if you look at the median purchase price down to the right, you can see it's pretty significant. The Canadians, here in Florida, we love the Canadians. And they come down and they quite often buy a second home, or in some cases, they even decide to stay here. And they're just trying to warm themselves up, I would suppose. Canada is beautiful, but the weather is just not for me. Now, this is a really interesting one that I want to make a little bit more of a comment about. Here in Texas, for example, there's an awful lot of people from India that moving into Texas and California, and it's primarily because of employment. And I'm working with a real estate agent right now in Texas. And the interesting thing about that is that I found a lot of the tech companies there in her city are coming from places like Mumbai, India. So I try to make a connection for her so that she has these connections in social media. So the criteria that all foreign buyers are looking for to start is, believe it or not, number one, security. You can imagine trying to move to a foreign country and not fitting in right away. So you are a little concerned about how you're going to be accepted. The security is number one. And I'm not just talking about gated communities or this kind of thing. As you're going to find out, feng shui is a lot about getting that feeling of safety and security. Second is easy access to amenities. When they do leave their gated community, if that's where they're at, they want to be able to get to the grocery store and the drugstore and so forth, fairly easily. They're not going to travel too far, especially the first year that they're in our country. But security is, again, number one, and we're going to keep talking about that. But anyway, what is feng shui? Well, it's an art or a science, depending on what book you pick up. And I always refer to it as an environmental science. And a lot of people feel very comfortable with me saying that, even people that are not even sure what feng shui is. It's just a very old environmental science that was created 3,000 or 4,000 years ago that has actually changed dramatically in the last 50, 60 years, taking things into account like electricity and all those things that they didn't have a couple of hundred years ago. It considers a lot of things, and these are just some, but it considers order, organization, beauty, harmony of nature, and so forth. It's a science, again, that is continually being updated, and this shocks a lot of people that I talk to. And if you decide to get into this and really decide to make this part of your business, you're going to find out that you want to be able to tell people that. Again, we now take into account these appliances that are in our kitchen that weren't around 100 years ago. And of course, electricity and so forth. There's a very simplistic definition, the art of placement. And as I like to tell my students, that is totally too simplistic. Feng Shui is so much more than where the bed goes, where the couch goes, where this goes, where that goes. Certainly, that's a part of it. And that's probably the part that you're thinking of. But it's so much more than that as you get deeper and deeper into this course. Here's another definition that I prefer using, and another one that I'm going to show in a moment, but this is living in harmony with the natural world. It's all about making sure that there is that kind of connection. So we want to show the natural world as much as we can inside. But here's another one that some people really prefer, the study of how to arrange your environment to enhance the quality of your life. That, in a lot of ways, says the whole thing to me. You're making your life and your family's life more successful by getting into feng shui and learning how to use it to create a very, very positive environment. So feng shui is a lot about feeling, okay? And the first thing is feeling safe and secure. If you don't feel that way, I'm sure you're not going to be very productive. Can you imagine going to work and you don't always feel safe and secure in that environment? And then you're being asked to do all these tasks. It's not easy. So you've got to feel safe and secure. International buyers are looking for it, but really everybody is, whether they're even thinking of it or not. In this particular course, we talk a lot about different studies, research to back things up. And one of the things that you're going to find out is that you and I are still wired like we were 1,000 years ago. So feng shui gives it to a buyer subconsciously greatly. So you can think of it, feng shui, when you make these changes, that it's subtly going to have a big effect on the buyer, a visitor, or whoever. And again, I like to give scientific studies. My background to start with was I was a mathematics teacher in public and private schools, head of a couple of math departments even. And, I just think that way. So when I got into feng shui, I really wanted to make sure that I could actually back some of this up. So I've done an awful lot to get research and studies to give to students. So here's one. I don't know that there's anything more natural than sunlight. So this one has to do with interior offices with no windows and offices that do have windows. And I have kiddingly told people, instead of worrying about the promotion or that bonus, try to get yourself an office with windows in it, because it'll affect you so many positive ways. They found a correlation doing this particular research that an office with a window, they actually were healthier, much more healthier. They took less sick days. So an employee like this, that's in the interior and doesn't have the windows and doesn't have that connection to the natural world, they weren't as healthy. They weren't as productive, and they certainly were not as happy. And I like to bring this up that there's a couple of companies in Germany that actually makes it a rule that even if you have an interior office, every hour you have the right to walk by a window, get up, walk by a window, and go back and do whichever you're doing. So, another study. This one happened in the state of Wisconsin about greenery. And they found out that the more green space where you live, the happier you seem to be. So the way they did this, they used a satellite information, checking different areas in Wisconsin, how much tree canopy they had, is the term they used. And they found out if you have less than 10% tree canopy, they found out those people were more depressed, more stressed, and more anxious. Certainly not, certainly not more productive either. So the idea when you're trying to help somebody find a good home, you might say, is checking the landscaping, checking if there are parks nearby. So the idea of the tree canopy is very, very important. And I'm always telling people it doesn't matter if you work in the city or you live in the city, live plants that you bring in are going to help you really be more successful, happier, and more productive. So plants are a big thing in feng shui, and we have a module about plants, interior and exterior. So feng shui was created primarily in China as an art or a science, like I said. The words stand for wind and water. Feng is wind, shui is water. And the interesting part of that always for me was those are the two most prevalent ways of moving energy around our planet. And it's found in other parts of the world under different names, which I'm going to give you. Again, if you're in real estate and you have somebody in your car from another part of the world, you might be surprised they don't know the words feng shui. It doesn't mean anything to them. But let me give you a few of them right now. In India, it's called Washnu. It's very, very similar to feng shui. In Vietnam, it's called feng shui. Thailand, jui. Korea, it's called punzgu. In Japan, fusu, I guess is how you pronounce that word. And I'd like to tell a quick story about an agent in my company in Charlotte that I sold to go into feng shui totally 18 years ago. That he was from Korea. We actually billed our office as being a little different in Charlotte, North Carolina, that we spoke 8 different languages. And one of them was Korean. And his name was Chong Choi, great guy, excellent, excellent agent. And I remember going up to him here. I've already been well into this, and I'm now fully certified. And I asked him what he thought of feng shui, and he had no idea what I was talking about until I used this term. And then he knew what I was talking about. So the rest of the world is it's known as feng shui. But the shocking thing about this to me is that it's grew in other parts of the world under different names with a lot of the same things that we know as feng shui. Make sure you know how to pronounce it so you don't butcher the word feng shui. Now, there are 3 extremely important concepts that I always am pushing with people. And again, you're going to hear these things over and over if you decide to take the class. And when we get to the end, I'm going to show you that I'm giving it to you as a reduced price, and I'm offering a bonus with it too. But the 3 important concepts here are number one, hold on a second, I got somebody wants that. Number one is the idea of chi, and you can spell it either of those ways. So if you pick up a book, you might see it as QI. I know that looks a little bizarre, but chi. And chi is your life spirit, it's my life spirit, what allows us to get the heck out of bed every day and keep moving and moving. So chi is definitely very, very powerful. You see it in a lot of different disciplines like yoga and stuff like that. So it's definitely there. And a lot of people now believe in acupuncture and stuff. Chi. I replace the word often with the word energy because it's a little more acceptable with some people. Starting my practice in the Carolinas, I had to make sure that I didn't, I don't know, make people a little bit leery of what I did. So I wanted to make sure that I spoke to them in a certain way. So I used the word energy a lot in the Carolinas instead of chi. And again, I had all that research to back things up. Now, chi is everywhere. It's in the chair you're sitting in, it's the ceiling above your head. If you have your pet next to you, I promise you that pet's got an awful lot of chi, a lot of energy. Okay, so everybody, including, you know, your family and all your friends, we're just nothing but energy. It's been proven in science that we're all energy, just vibrating at a very different pace. Now, the number one goal of feng shui is to really make sure that you have a consistent amount of qi coming in. There are certain places where it comes in a little bit more, like the front door, but you want it to be consistent, abundant, and under control. I've been using this particular slide now for about 18 years because it gives me the idea or the chance to be able to look at all types of chi for you here. Believe it or not, the picture on the bottom left represents two bad types of chi. Yeah, bad types. So we want to steer away from them because they're not helpful. So if you look at that picture on the bottom left, notice that the trees are somewhat under the water. Okay, that is not natural. That's not normal. Something happened. Well, what happened is something very rushing or powerful happened, whether a dam broke or there was a hurricane, some type of a storm, torrential downpour of rain. Okay, something happened. That's not going to help you. And if you have rushing chi in your listing, in your own house, it doesn't help you. And in some cases, it can hurt you. The other bad type of chi is in that picture too for me, because the water now is sort of stopped. It's now stagnant. So if you have stagnant chi, it's not going to help you, folks. It's just not going to do it. So one of the things that a feng shui practitioner is always trying to do is to try to make sure that the chi looks like what you see in the top right. A lot of us, probably all of us, have walked on alongside of a stream in a park and noticed that the water was meandering back and forth. You always want to think of it that way. I want to make sure it's meandering and therefore nurturing both sides of the bank, both sides. And probably at times you've looked at that stream and it doesn't even look like it's moving, but it is. So it's under control. It's going back and forth, doing its job. So the kind of chi or energy that you want to have come into your house is this kind. Okay. And so we talk about that and talk about it and talk about it in the class of how to get the chi under control so that the whole house has a feel to it that is really very noticeable. The second concept that I want to talk to you about is called what I would call the perfect home site. That picture sort of represents it for you. Again, I need you to think back thousands of years. That's where this all started. And there are different schools of thought in feng shui. And the first school is called form school. They use the topology. So if a person or a family were trying to find a place to put their house, they would look for a property like this. Notice the hill to the far left at the top. So they would want to put their house third or halfway up that mountain. They'd have their backs protected. Okay. But that wasn't enough. You know, you could find a mountain here and there, but you also wanted to look to the left and the right, making sure that there was some protection there too. So trees, forest, other smaller hills or whatever would help quite a bit on the flanks. That wasn't enough yet. You also wanted to be able to see, you know, almost like 180 degrees or more for long distances, so you could really see what was coming your way. Thousands of years ago, you needed to have some prior knowledge if people were coming your way. So they then had time to be able to react to it. Okay, they might run away. They might get their weapons. They might hide. Whatever they're going to do, but they had time to react to the whole thing. So this concept is used in all schools of feng shui, inside and outside. And in feng shui, the outside is really considered more important than even the inside. And this idea we refer to it as the classic armchair. So you have your back of your chair, you have your armrests, which are the smaller hills and forest, and then you can see what's going on in front of you. You have a real good idea what's going on in your environment. You and I are wired that way even now. So again, we use it inside and outside for everything. Form school. This is what China looks like in certain parts. So you can see this lend itself to trying to use the topology to put their homes in a very safe environment. Now here in Florida, we don't have any mountains. Maybe we have a few here and there up north. I don't know. But down where I am in the Sarasota area, we don't have mountains. So when I say mountains, I'm talking about having some protection behind me. So if you have a house that you have listed, or even a house that you're living in, and you don't have any protection behind you, you feel it. You feel it. It's support. It's that extra support, but it also gives you that extra privacy. So when you're trying to sell a home and you got open fields behind you, it hurts you. So these are all mountains, whether you were talking about evergreens, which I have used on very, very crowded streets to try to stop the noise a little bit too, or fences or walls. It helps a great deal to show the buyer this is a safer environment. I have some support. I have some protection. I have more privacy. I went to lunch a lot with my son when I was living in Charlotte. He's still living there with his family. He's a policeman. And I'm fond of saying, he's been at it now, geez, almost 20 years now. And whether he had his uniform on or not, he always wanted to sit in a particular way. Always. He always sat where he had his back to a wall and he had a complete view of the room, especially the front door or the door that entered into the restaurant. That's the way we're wired to feel protected. So I kiddingly show this picture of this gentleman that is in the middle of a restaurant, not feeling terribly safe, not feeling very happy probably either. And then I have this couple. Yeah, they got their choice. So they picked a booth. And I bet you do too. If you have your choice in a restaurant, they said, sit wherever you want. You go to a booth. You have your back protected to some degree. You have a little extra security, and you have a much better view of the whole room. Now, there are different schools of feng shui, as I sort of have alluded to. And again, the first one is form school. This is how feng shui started. And I'm going to show you some other schools. But one of the things that all of these schools don't always understand, that if there is a disagreement between this school and them, this one takes precedence. So this is form school. You probably have thought feng shui was a lot about compass. It is not about compass for all feng shui school at all. And actually, how I got started, since I worked with existing homes like a lot of you do, compass didn't make it that easy for me sometimes. So I use a different school. But if I was helping somebody build, that's great. Maybe if you've done any reading, maybe you've heard of these, but Eight Mansion and Flying Star are two schools that are compass. So this is the other school that I use. And this came over in the 1980s and has taken the United States by I don't even know what the term is, but really became very, very popular with respect to people. It was a little easier to use than compass. It was easy to use with existing homes, and most of us live in an existing home. So you find out if you decide to take this training, we'll be using that with respect to certain feng shui tools, along with landform. And again, there's other schools too. There's other schools. For example, there's a school that was created in Marco Island, Florida, called Pyramid. And Pyramid has been around for probably at least 20, 25 years. Now, again, this whole course is about real estate success and how I used it for real estate success. So I want you to get that point through. So when I was using feng shui, I wanted to make sure they knew what I did and why it would help them. Well, to me, using feng shui on a home to get it ready to sell will save them time. Very valuable. It'll save them money. You won't have to make those price changes. It'll save them stress, and it'll help you avoid having to make those darn beds. I don't know about you, but I don't make beds very well. And I've sold quite a few of my homes, and I've actually built four homes with my wife. But moving is not fun. So you want to be able to avoid stuff like having to make beds for months. People miss a lot. And again, part of my background, I need to sort of delve into psychology. Feng Shui is a lot about psychology. And people are often very confused or unclear or baffled about what's going on, or they just don't remember something. And probably you've had buyers in your car that quickly forget the home two homes ago. So again, I had to do a lot of digging for me to understand a lot what was going on. So I found out that 95% of what happens around us really never reaches our conscious. And that is a really good thing. Can you imagine if all your memories, all your experiences were always in your head at the same time of your life? Your head would explode. So therefore, we have been created in a way that takes advantage of these things. Your experiences are still there, and every once in a while they crop up when you don't want them to. But 5% is where you are showing your direct relationship with something in front of you. Okay, you're working with something, you're talking to someone. But the other 95% is where decisions are made. And feng shui really affects the 95% beautifully. So an architectural benefit, maybe a specific room, an amazing view, anything that adds value can often not register with a buyer because they were focusing on the wrong things. And that hurts you, hurts your client. So feng shui really always helped me with recall. These people really would remember homes a lot better, and they would really remember the positive things a lot better. So there's two feelings that impact greatly in feng shui. And I've again already mentioned this one, but for someone to prosper, to really succeed in life, they've got to be able to concentrate in their environment. And a lot of people don't do that. Okay. I'm sure some of you work with people who lose their concentration all the time. Maybe you do. Feng Shui really helps with that. So the first thing is we've got to make sure they feel secure. And again, I'm not talking about deadbolts and vicious dogs. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about handling it on a subconscious level so that when somebody walks into your listing, they say, oh my goodness, this is just great. So if you take care of that, which I'm going to show you some of it right now, if you take care of that right away, they then feel comfortable. So what happens when they feel comfortable? Well, a lot of good things. Okay. They stay, they take a look, they focus. Okay. So I like to say that feng shui is like a domino effect. You take care of the security, become comfortable. You're comfortable, you focus, and you're more productive. You then get that new promotion or whatever. So it's just one thing happens after another, but you got to start with security. So let's talk a little bit more about safety and security. This is concept 3. You've all heard of fight and flight. Okay. We are all wired the same way right now. Okay. We've never really changed. So when a person is unsure and they walk into an environment feeling a little off or not sure, They're less focused when viewing a home, and that doesn't help you at all. It also makes them less comfortable inside. And if they're not comfortable, I don't know why you would expect them to really want to make an offer. And then they tend to stay less time. I always was worried about somebody leaving after a few minutes. And some people do, as you know, and they have poor recall of the good features of the home. So we've got to make sure they feel really good. And probably all of us at one time or another have walked into an environment and didn't feel our best, didn't feel safe, and you didn't know why. So feng shui takes care of that so that immediately they walk in, they feel that they're okay and they can really start to do their job. So this can't be good for the client or your business if they're unsure. So how do we take care of security? Well, here's one way. We take care of what's called poison arrows. Maybe a funny term for you, but I remember being on a live podcast and they thought it was hilarious. But poison arrows is a real thing, and I'm going to prove it with respect to some science in a moment, some studies. This causes a person stress and a feeling of insecurity. And again, if that happens, you might as well kiss them goodbye. They're not going to come back and make you an offer. So if you look at the top left-hand picture, I'm pointing at that corner. That's a sharper edge than we want when they enter the house. And again, I'm going to give you some research to show you that when a person has an awful lot of these things pointing at them, right away their comfort level goes down. They become less secure. So I tell people all the time, your pots, whatever you're framing the door with, have to be rounded pots. Everybody that's ever taken my class probably has heard that 100 times. One of the things that any feng shui practitioner does is they go into the bedrooms and they look for poison arrows. This is a master bedroom that has a severe poison arrow right here. That corner of that dresser is pointed right at the person where they would lay their head when they're going to sleep. In feng shui, 8 hours of that can cause problems, even health problems, believe it or not. So we try to take that away. We try to move the dresser down if we have to and move it out. There's other ways to do things. So the cures are something that you would learn in the course. Somebody really knowledgeable of feng shui is going to walk out of the house that's being shown and look at the roof lines. Yep, even the roof lines. So if the roof line is actually pointed at the door of the house they're looking at, or God forbid, the master bedroom window, they might want to just keep looking. Okay, just to give you a tip there. And then of course a lot of homes that you have or you walk in have columns like this. So there's a way of handling that. There are cures for this to create security and comfort. So here's a picture that gives a good example. The only difference you see is the plant that is now sort of an obstacle from that corner. So if you had your favorite chair, you sat there for hours watching TV, it's to your benefit to probably try to soften that corner. And we use obstacles like you see with a potted plant. Here's that study that I was mentioning from a university in Japan, measuring sharp corners. So they found out comparing rounded corners that you see like on the bottom there to the ones that were 45 and 90 degrees, the sharp corners came off as much larger to them subconsciously. And this presence of right or acute angles, and hopefully remember your math, an acute angle is less than 90 degrees, elicits large negative feelings. It's been proven. It weakens a person, especially if we're talking about a sleeping in a situation for 8 hours. That person might get up, much more often with a backache or whatever. So you take away poison arrows as much as you can. Now, when selling a home, you need to ace what I call the five big D's. I created this. And so as far as I know, I myself and my partner Lisa Albin, we're the only school that really talk about the five big D's. We advocate the idea of a space clearing, but not everybody wants to do that. And maybe you don't even know what a space clearing is. That is something that is covered. But really, when anybody moves into a new home, it's to their benefit to do something like this. You want to clear out the old, bad, poor energy. So I made up a lot of words to come up with all D's. We have decluttering, depersonalizing, detailing, deep cleaning. Okay. So those are the first four. And if you handle those four, you're really way ahead of a lot of the other houses on the street. There's the four big D's. And I'm going to give you the fifth one in just a moment. But I want you to understand what this does. It reduces the predecessor energy. And in feng shui, that's the term, predecessor energy. And if you've been in real estate long enough, you know what I'm talking about. You might be thinking of just depersonalizing, but you don't want somebody walking into your listing and all they do is they see their photos of their family all over the place. And that person then thinks, I don't think I'm going to fit in here. I can't see myself here. That's their home. You don't want that happening. So if you want to call it predecessor energy, that's even more of a better term. So we're always trying to reduce the predecessor energy. And these four things, if done properly, and taking a week or so before you make it active, you're way ahead of the game. And then we dynamize with the rest of the feng shui. So clutter to me is a terrible word. So I try to stay away from it. The dreaded seven-letter word. And as you know, and again, I know you know this, too much of anything in a room or a house feels smaller. It just does. And you're selling square footage, or at least the perception of a spacious house, a house that is going to take care of all their needs. So if you make that house come off as small, you've lost them. So feng shui symbolically is also about creating room for new opportunities. New opportunities actually come into people's lives when there's room there. In that picture right there, you can imagine this couple right here. Every morning they're trying to find their car keys or whatever, so they start their day off with a lot of stress and frustration. So yes, we talk about clutter a lot. So limitation is a terrible word in feng shui. We want to not show limitation in any of our real estate homes. So again, good feng shui shows room for growth, and you need to show it in your listings. It's one of the things that we train you to do. I'm sure you've seen pictures like this. Maybe you have a listing that looks like this. Okay. Princeton University, again, another piece of research. I just want you to understand that you get this information and you can use it with clients to say, hey, look, I know you've never heard of feng shui, but Princeton says clutter insight competes for your brain resources. Golly, I don't know about you, but I don't want anything to compete for my brain resources anymore. It prevents focus and it limits our processing power. That's not good. Okay. So clutter is a real no-no. And if you've got clutter, please consider taking care of it. So clutter comes in a lot of sizes, shapes, and places. And I sort of make a joke about this, but if you have a cluttered entrance, the buyer may head back to the car. If you got stuff all over the closets and your pantry, they might just run back to the car. And here's a tip for you. Make sure your closets, your pantries have nothing on the floors. You have probably lost deals because your pantries were too small. And it might just because the floors were filled up. Your closets were filled up on the floor. When you have stuff on the floors, you have stagnant energy. So it's not just showing limitation, it's also giving the wrong feeling. Okay, there's a great tip for you right there. This is what we're looking for, of course. So here's some other ways to take care of this. How's this look to you? I'm sure you've seen a bookcase that looks like this. Maybe you have a bookcase like this. This shows limitation because there are books that are in a horizontal position that just don't seem to belong there. It's showing limitations, bad impression. Again, feng shui is a lot about psychology. That's one of the reasons why I love it. Believe it or not, in feng shui, it might even be hidden to some degree. But here's a look at a kitchen. Don't ask me about the monkey. I have no idea why Curious George is there. But you probably at this point have already learned to take away the clutter off a refrigerator. You don't want them focusing on when they have ballet. You want to make sure what's up at the top there is not there either. Again, this is just going to slow the energy down or stagnate too much. But it also what takes away their focus on what they should be seeing in that kitchen. But believe it or not, even in a drawer that might be shut can actually create a little bit more of the feeling. I bet you probably have a drawer at home where you shove all the stuff in that you will finally get to at some time or another. You know, you go to the mailbox, you get your mail. All right, I mean, this might be okay. Let me throw it in here. I'll look at it in a few weeks. And before you know it, you can't even open up the drawer without using both hands. Okay. So feng shui is a lot about that kind of stuff too. So this even hidden, it still has an effect on what goes on. Clutter can happen everywhere, including outside. You can have too much of anything. Feng shui is about staying away from extremes. Too much visual stimuli, poor organization is going to hurt you selling your house. This doesn't do what you want it to do. This picture right here is a lot of people think they don't see anything wrong with it, but I do. So let me go over how I think and how hopefully you're going to start thinking. You're going to have a little trouble walking through there. And if you're going to have a little trouble walking through there mentally, okay, it's possibly going to cause a problem for you. See, people, again, on a subconscious level are thinking, am I going to be able to fit through there? Am I going to snag my shirt, my pants, whatever, on one of those pieces of furniture? Am I going to skin my shin? So there's a lot of things that are going on. You're not feeling secure. You're not feeling comfortable. A home that's taken care of with feng shui has both of those things going in spades. So again, a narrow walkway can be a hazard consciously and subconsciously. So visual stimuli is clutter. We've all seen houses that have a wall like this. And again, I like to look into things like this, and it seems to be that a person who walks in and sees this wall will actually look at every one of those pictures real quickly. In most cases, a split second, and then they'll dwell on two or three of them. And you've lost their focus, and it now looks like their home and not their possible home. So visual stimuli is just as bad as if it's on the floor. Okay, let's talk about the big D's again. Deep cleaning. Number one item I'm trying to promote to people, and a lot of people have this hang up and get a little bit upset because they think their home is very, very clean. Well, most of us really don't ever do a deep cleaning. And if you really want to get ahead of the game, I want to make sure they do the four big D's in a week before we make it active. So what is this? It's a deep cleaning. It changes the emotions tremendously in everybody. And a buyer can be very offended if it's not real clean. You know, a buyer can be offended for a lot of things. For example, if a bed's not made. So deep cleaning is a top to bottom, thorough, complete cleaning from baseboards all the way up to the ceiling. Yes, and even the blinds and behind the refrigerator, which I'm sure you've never looked at since you moved in. So if you do this, please understand you're ready for the final walkthrough already. You've already way ahead of the game, and it's going to smell so much better. It's going to look so much better, and it's going to feel so much better. Detailing happens to do with things being taken care of. When you're trying to sell a house, everything should work. It should work. So it doesn't matter how small or big it is. If you have bad things working, not working, it's bad feng shui. And that's a mounting stress for everybody. So international buyers really consider this an opportunity to barter. And if you've never had a buyer from another country and they want to barter, oh, please try to stay away from that. You know, I've actually gotten rid of some people because I just couldn't handle it anymore. We would write an offer. I see the thumbs up. You would write an offer. You would write an offer, and then they would want, they want to barter for everything. So I have actually fired some people. Depersonalizing. All right, if you look at that room up there, one of my all-time favorite pictures, you can see that they love lamps and they also look like they have a sick house. They have an oxygen tank. You can't see the prescriptions, but they're hanging out there too. So you never want to show that kind of stuff. So, for example, again, family and personal photographs. You know that one. Extensive collections. Boy, can I go on about that one. I had a listing interview that I actually decided I didn't want because I walked in there and all these dolls were around, all of them in every room. There were like 30 or 40 dolls in every room. And she would not put them away. You can imagine how creepy that is when you walk into those rooms. So extensive collections need to be taken away. I don't want them to lose their focus. I want them to see the house as unlimited. This is a tough one. Religious items. Again, you want any buyer who comes, potential buyer who comes into your house to feel, okay, I think I can fit in here okay, no matter what their religion is. Items that might offend. I could write a book on that one, and you probably could too. Personal hygiene items like your water pick or whatever, they need to be stashed. Nobody wants to see these things, folks. Again, medications and any kind of healthcare items like you see in that picture. Items with strong emotional connections. This one's going to surprise you in a moment, but I even had folks who take down anything they were aligned with a favorite sports team. Excuse me. There are some people, and I'm a big sports fan, but there are some people that won't even want to look at a home if it's got the wrong team. They're really big rival. They say, "Oh, I know I can't fit in here." I'm a Boston Red Sox fan. Yankee fans don't like Boston Red Sox fans, and I think it's vice versa. So sometimes you just want to put that stuff away, so if you want to sell it quick. So selling a home using feng shui to me it's all about priorities. Your first priority was to take care of the four big D's. Okay. You take a week, you take 2 weeks. I don't care. But I am not going to put your home on the market that night if you sign with me. So you sell a home using feng shui, there are priorities. And here are the priorities. They've got to have a fantastic curb appeal. They have to take care of the walk from the car to the front door in a special way. The entrance, so pivotal in feng shui. The foyer, first glance around. The room of first impression, very, very important. Is it easy to move for the house? And then I'm going to bring the last two up. Those are the two most important rooms in feng shui to sell a house. The kitchen and the master bedroom need special, special attention. They have to knock their socks off and really make them feel, oh yeah, that's going to do it for me. So I always felt like my clients, if they took care of the four big D's and what I call the 8 most impressionable moments, and they passed them, they are probably going to get an offer very, very, very quickly. And the way I look at it down there at the bottom, if you pass the test, their enthusiasm increases. You flunk a test, it decreases, and you really are going to have a lot of trouble bringing them back in line. So curb appeal certainly is pivotal. But nowadays, with the way you all have to do business, you might want to think of it as web appeal. So we talk a lot about photos. We talk about marketing in this class. Okay. It's not just about feng shui. Yes, it's using feng shui to get to that point, but the curb appeal photo gets twice as many views as any other photo. And I can tell you right now, and I hope you're not one of them, but you have like 50 photos and 10 of them are about a bathroom, the same bathroom, just from a different angle. You're wasting time. You're wasting their time. You want to zero in on the really important photos and then bring them in. But the first 5 or 6 photos are going to do the job for you. So web appeal is important. You know that they now have access to every darn house out there by realtor.com or Trulia or whatever. They don't need you the same way that they needed you 15 years ago. So that poor curb appeal photo will really, really, really hurt you. So that first photo should be a picture of the house in bright sunshine like this one from a slight angle. Okay. Do not take the photos until the owner has done what you asked them to do. In other words, they've done the 4 big Ds and they've done these other things I'm going to talk about, or you're going to have to ask them to come back out. Again, I like studies. Here's a study from the MLS. You got to get the money shots first, folks. And again, I have seen MLS listings many, many times, and it might have, I don't know, the secondary bedroom first or a bathroom first. Are you kidding me? That's not going to do the job for you. So the money shots are going to do it for you. So 95% of the viewers look at a curb appeal photo first, and they just keep coming back and coming back and coming back to it and really sort of tying themselves into it. So you want to make sure you do a really good job with that particular set of first photos. So the money shots are the following. The street photo, and I'm going to add to the street photo in a minute, but the street photo is real important and make sure you're doing it in bright sunshine as much as you can. I know in the winter sometimes it's a problem. The family room in the back is a very important thing. The kitchen, of course, and the master bedroom and bath. Those are the money shots. A lot of the other stuff is just fluff. It doesn't really help you a lot. And in some cases, just it's sort of frustrating to see 10 bathroom pictures. So look at this. Which home would you actually go look at? Well, of course, you're going to look at the one on the right for a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons. But hey, I have a bone to pick with some real estate agents and hopefully not you. Have you ever picked up somebody's MLS listing and you saw the picture on the right and they never ever went back and took the picture on the left because they were lazy? Don't be lazy. Take advantage of the natural light. Take advantage of what feng shui tells you is going to really sell your home quickly. So if you might need to get it on that week, and maybe that's the first picture you took, but I'll tell you something, get back out there and take different photos if you can. Use nature, use it. Maybe you've heard of yin and yang. If you haven't, you're going to hear about it right now. You've probably seen the yin and yang symbol. And I'm going to give you a secret tip that I've always used that's really helped me a lot. Yin is more dark, inward, okay? Yang is light, more active. So your first picture probably is going to be the one that's more light, but then you should follow it up with a yin photo of the same house with the lights on. I promise you it helps a great deal if you follow feng shui techniques, that you have a yang photo or maybe another good one after that, and then a yin photo or maybe another one also of that. They love this look. And I have sold houses that way a lot faster just because when they were at home already on realtor.com doing their thing, and they stopped and looked at those first couple photos and they said, "Oh, I want to see that one." So these are all yin photos, you might say. they catch their attention in another different way. All right, let's talk about those poison arrows again. Sharp corners, let's soften them. I'm going to show you how to do it for the first time, hopefully not for the last time. Here's a home that has taken care of those columns pretty well. Those columns have sharp corners coming off. So when a person's walking up to the front door, again, I want them to feel secure, comfortable, so that when they go through that front door, we've got their attention, we've got them focused. So plants, landscaping is going to help you in a lot of ways. And the plants don't have to be in the ground. They can be in pots, but you want to take away the sharp corners as much as you can. What we do in some of the training is we show you examples of this and that and how to take care of it in different situations. A lot of you probably even have a home that looks like this, where you didn't even think about it, but you softened a corner of a house by doing something like this. What this does, folks, is it makes it more comfortable and secure and welcoming to people. So they might not even know in this house what feng shui is, but they softened that corner really nicely and made it friendlier. Here's a picture of a ranch home that you see all across the United States. I guarantee you. I haven't been in every state in the union, but I've been in quite a few of them. And so these ranches that were built in the 50s and the 60s, are in the millions. And they come across as being sort of sterile, not very welcoming, nothing special about them. So what would I do with them? All right, well, what I would do is to try to soften the house. And I'm going to do that right now in this picture. Give you an idea of one of the things that you learn how to do and do well. So we're going to make it more welcoming and comfortable by adding some landscaping. Okay, we're going to start at the bottom. The far left. And I'm going to hang a pot right there, take away that corner. And then maybe I'll do another one. And I might put a tree with more of a rounded shape. The rounded shape is a lot softer. It creates a feeling of more softness to it. And then again, I might put a hedge in here. And I might take the other corner away by using a tree or other bushes. But you can see it's a little more comfortable and hopefully a little more attractive too. But again, you're probably going to have houses that are probably nicer to look to start with, but they have sharp corners that are hurting you. If you remember, one of the 8 most impressionable moments was the walk to the front door. And a lot of people just ignore this. I want to build their enthusiasm before they get to the front door. So let's start. Here's a picture that's got a meandering pathway. That's fantastic. I love it, but it's not been done well enough because the landscaping on both sides is really not doing it for me. This is better. Okay, it's got a curvy path, which is great. By the way, if you take training, you'll learn how to take care of a straight pathway without having to dig it up. And we can create the meandering pathway. But here's what, you don't get much better than this. You can imagine this really is enticing. It attracts them all the way to the front door. So that's one of them. Number 3, if you remember, was the entrance. Here's a picture of a house that has a red door. And some of you might like this. I don't like it at all. And the reason why is because in my pictures, in my MLS pictures, in my flyers out front, I've got to make sure that that picture has to pop, really pop, and get inside their brain. So we got a red door and I have a brick exterior. And if you, I'm sure, understand that brick is in a lot of cases reds and oranges and browns. It sort of blends in too much. So I would never paint that door red. See the difference? This has got a brick exterior, but the door really pops, right? Really pops. You can imagine on MLS how that's going to look. This one's done perfectly. The door pops. It's been framed nicely by rounded pots with some color in it. So we use a lot of color and contrast in our class. So make sure the front door contrasts whatever the exterior is. So if you have a blue exterior, don't make your door blue. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So again, the front door is pivotal. I would definitely change this. I don't like those pots too much. And I certainly wouldn't put green in there. This is a chance to really put some color there and really catch their attention, really make them remember it going in and coming out. This one's a lot better. If you can, you always want to try to show the address. You don't want to frustrate people. This one is terrible to me. Even though the door is perfect for the exterior, the way it is framed is terrible. It's not natural looking. Okay. Notice the pots are also got sharp edges on them. So I would change that. But if you think that's bad, it doesn't get much worse than this one. You always want to make sure that a person can get to the door without thinking they're going to trip or get stuck somewhere. Okay. And does that look natural to you, those two pots? I sure hope not. So you want to frame the door with rounded pots if you can. If you can only get one pot in there that's rounded, that's fine. But you want to use color like this. So I get this question all the time. Okay, I never use my front door. Well, the architect or the builder, when they did the house, there is a main entrance, and that is where we want to have our energy enter, and that's where we want to have our buyer enter. So again, it's the primary entrance of chi. We've got to make sure that it's attractive on the internet, attractive from the street. No clutter, of course. Easy to move around. I'm not going to catch my clothes on anything. Contrasting color with the exterior. We already mentioned that. And this one might surprise you a little, though it had no squeaks. You probably have a door or two in your house that when you open it up, it squeaks. That's not considered good feng shui. And have you ever, like I don't know, in the winter and the door jams? Can you imagine how that doesn't make the showing of the house easy or simple? So right away, it could be a check in the wrong column for that person. So make sure there are no squeaks to the entrance door, especially, and it's easy to open. And again, frame the door with rounded pots. Here's a picture of a multi-million-dollar home in Charlotte, North Carolina. And you can see that they've done a lot of really bad stuff. So let me point it out, just again, to make my point. That bush is bad feng shui. We can't see who's coming real easily. You never want to block the view from the front door, never. So I'd probably ask them to remove that. The beds are in terrible shape. They're not organized at all. They haven't done any trimming. And then look at there. There's some stain that's showing around that one lantern. And you know that a buyer, once they see one thing that's wrong, they go further and further with it. Oh, I wonder if the roof is even going to hold up. I wonder if the AC is ready to go. So you always show contrast. If you're not doing that, you're really hurting yourself. So I always try to get my clients to show a lot of color. Okay. So we do have a module where we talk about how to do the front yard. And there is some tricks to it. You just don't put stuff all over the place. So I want to show some color. I want to lead them to the front door. Again, contrast attracts chi and human attention. And I make that point all the time. If you do one, you do the other. If you're getting a human's attention, you're also getting the chi's attention into the front door. Some of this is going to be somewhat of a joke a little bit for you. Okay, houses that might be eliminated when considering feng shui. These are the worst house plans that you could possibly mess with. And this is just a joke. There's no way that those two are going to be shown. So when you're buying a house, good feng shui is really important. Has a huge impact on your life and your client's life. And it's really a lot more than just four walls where we eat and sleep. This is going to really have a lot to do with how you succeed in life. So we want to make sure we have careful consideration. If you're going to be a buyer's agent, please try to help them to pick the right home by using a lot of different criteria that other agents are not using. That's another thing that we talk about in the training, how to be a much better buyer agent. And if you get them into a house that's got good feng shui, and when they move 5 years from now, and they hopefully call you, you're already in good shape. You want to make sure you're mindful of the route. If you can, try to make it pleasing. This was there was a house down the street from here that I helped with, and this was one route in. So I took them the other route and it sold. Whoops, let me go back to, you're probably going to want to see this one. If that's the route, that's going to be a problem. They're not going to be comfortable. If they got garbage cans outside, that might turn them off too. So consider the route that you take them in. That first impression is so darn important, and you can't get them back if you lose there. Other things that's going to help. Split levels are a no-no in feng shui. The energy comes in, it doesn't know if it goes up or down. Houses below grade, big, big problem. Probably a lot of your house, a lot of where you live, maybe you don't have this, but we had it in Charlotte. You can imagine trying to come out of the house on the left-hand side, coming out of your garage, having to gun it to get up to the street. Not a very positive way, but it's almost as bad grade up. Backdropping off. This is one of the most difficult things for somebody to work with in feng shui. Now, there are cures for all of these, but in a lot of cases, they don't work real well. They just are like a band-aid. And it's to your not to your importance to know what's what can be helped and what can't. So a lot of houses you see in California or in the mountains can sometimes be a little bit of a problem because people have this feeling about it being a little precarious. I tried working on a house like this one and trying to create the mountain behind their house. Can you imagine how important that it can be? And it's so hard to do. I use lelands and walls and fences, and still, in a lot of cases, people, especially with young kids, don't want to have anything to do with a house like this. Odd-shaped lots. Believe it or not, in feng shui, you want to try to use a regular rectangular lot as much as possible because the energy fills it up much better. This street goes right to that house, so it's a little bit of a problem. So we would rather have it more in the interior. So we talk a lot about building lots. You've all probably tried to show a brand new home and there's nothing behind it. Again, there's no mountain, there's no support, there's no protection. So it can be a real problem. Here's a subdivision where somebody is starting their mountain, if you want to call it that. That's what I call it. They put up the plants there and they're trying to grow it, trying to get them extra privacy, trying to support themselves. But over at the main street, even though the builders tried to, there's too much noise over there. You stay away from houses that have utility lines and transformers. That's a no-brainer. This one's going to shock some of you, but cul-de-sacs cannot always be considered positive. These two houses especially are getting tremendous amount of rushing chi coming down that street. Think about it this way. Somebody's coming home after 12 o'clock at night with their high beams on, and your bedroom is in the front of the house. How's that feel? That's the path of the energy too. So you try to stay away from those positioning if you can. Dead ends, even the name is bad. You stay away from dead ends. Here's one that's been going around the country. We knocked down the smaller, older house and put up a grand house. So again, the house on the left is really sort of intimidated and you have trouble selling it. Busy streets, again, no brainer. Too much noise, too much forceful energy. House located at T junction. You probably know what a T junction is. That house down at the end is in the bad place, right there. Okay. So you have energy coming from a lot of different directions, a lot of forceful energy coming down straight at it. You can imagine if somebody lost control of their car coming straight to it. So it's not a good place to have a house. So other things that would be considered if you're in feng shui, master bedroom not in the back. That's the best place to have the master bedroom, folks. And you can talk to your clients this way. Let's make sure your master bedroom's in the back. You get a great night's sleep. You're going to get up ready to go, get that promotion. Direct sight from front door out the back. I'll show you some really wild pictures. That's not good. View from the front door is blocked. We mentioned that already in that one picture. Bathroom located in the middle of the house. House located on a corner lot. That one probably floors you. So the bedroom that is in the front of the house, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get a good night's sleep. Feng Shui is so much about getting a great night's sleep and staying healthy. Front door looks straight out the back. We don't want that as the first impression when you walk over the threshold. We want you to look to the right or to the left, and we show you how to do it. But you can imagine that everybody that walks in this house is going to look at the back and want to go to the back, and then they'll forget what's up in the front quite often. So that's not positive. Not only that, the chi, the energy coming in the front door, is going right out the back. Look at this one. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. But you learn how to actually get their attention so that they look at the room of first impression on the left or the right instead of running right and jumping in the pool. So blocking walls can be a problem. Show you how to handle blocked walls. Here's the bathroom that's in the middle. And you're probably wondering, well, why is that a problem? Because, a lot of you might have, if you have a two-story home, you probably have a powder room, half bath, middle of the house. You have to learn how to handle the situation so the energy doesn't disappear on you and you get a better feeling out of it. So we show you how to do that. House on the corner. A lot of you probably like this, but think about all the extra energy on both sides and the less privacy you have. Feng Shui wants you to be comfortable and really feel safe and secure. And again, get a great night's sleep, not have a lot of noise and energy around you. So we try to stay away from that. Let me go through this real quickly. I want you to know what I'm offering. So normally the price for this certification is $395. So I've dropped it to $295. The 3-month payment is now $112 a month. We offer a 3-month payment. What you receive is the recording of tonight's presentation and the slides, access to our library forever and ever of the videos covering over 16 hours of feng shui techniques for real estate success. You get the slides. You get a 12-page seller checklist, which can be very, very helpful for the first homes that you see and are looking at it with feng shui eyes. A 6-page buyer checklist that will help you a great deal if you're a buyer's agent. The use of the logo that you see up at the top right for marketing, a certificate of completion to display however you do that. Continuing aid with me forever. Okay, you just got to email me a question. And my special bonus that I'm offering is the recording of my LinkedIn class that I teach nationally too for real estate agents. And this helps a great deal with prospecting. So you get that video, or it actually is 2 videos of an hour long. It's a 3-hour CE class that I give in Florida also. I have 2 CE classes that I give. So again, the price then goes back to $395 on Monday, September 17th. Why September 17th? I'm offering the training 2 ways. You can do it self-paced, go as fast as slow as you want to, or you can do it slightly more structured, which is what I'm going to talk about. Again, it's $295 and it goes to September 17th, 3-month plan. payment plan of a 112 instead of what's normally 145. This structured class starts on the 17th at 7 o'clock. We go for 1 hour. Nothing like this 90 minutes. I know you're probably tired. You're assigned several videos at that point, and then the next Tuesday we meet. We have a Q&A that's 30 to 40 minutes long, and then you get some more videos assigned to you. So you're more structured. You have me there to answer your question every Tuesday. So we continue meeting each Tuesday for 30 minutes or longer if we have to. And you get assigned new videos. And then on October 15th, you graduate. And they all start at 7. They're all recorded. So if you miss one, it's recorded, sent to you the next day. And you are greatly encouraged always to ask me questions online between meetings. And again, even after you finish. So if you are interested, you might want to write down the link down at the bottom. It'll take you there. I've already changed the price from $395 to $295. It's now there. And so is the new payment plan for each month of the 3-month plan. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. I think I did pretty well. I still got 3 or 4 minutes, I guess, but I hope you'll join me. I promise you that this is the way that I did my business my last several years, and it really made a big difference. And again, I now am teaching these as CE classes. I have been teaching them nationally. I have graduates from all over the world, actually. Several from Europe, a lot from Canada, and I'd love you to join me. So I want to again thank you for showing up. I know 90 minutes is a long time, and I hope that you'll decide to join me, and I hope to see you again. Okay, you take care of yourself, and again, thanks very much, and I'll see you